we've got to graph this inequality. Remember, we're going to graph it just like a line, but then we need shading, and then we're going to have to decide solid or dotted, okay? So I've got y is greater than 2x minus 5. My y-intercept is still negative 5. And if I want to make this a fraction, I can make it 2 over 1, so my slope is up to right 1, because this needs to be a positive 2 over 1, which means this line is increasing. All right, next thing I have to decide, is my line solid or is my line dotted? Well, y'all, there's not a line underneath this, so it's just going to be a dotted line. And then I have to decide, do I shade above or do I shade below? Well, this says y is greater than, so I'm going to shade above. So I'm going to come in here and shade above this dotted line, so all of my solutions are in this blue feasible region. Okay? All right, number 2, I've got x is less than negative 5. Well, y'all, if it's an x, that means it is a vertical line. So I'm going to go to negative 5 on the x-axis. And I'm going to draw a vertical line. But now I have to decide, is this line going to be solid or is this line going to be dotted? Well, because there's not a line underneath it, I'm going to have a dotted line. And I can't shade above and below on this one, but it says x is less than. All right, so if we're less than, which numbers are smaller than negative 5? It's going to be all these over to the right. So I'm going to shade on the right. All of those are your solutions or your feasible regions. All right, number 3, I still got to start at my y-intercept, which my y-intercept in this case is a negative 4. My slope is 4 over 3, so I'm going to go up 4, right 3, because this is a positive 4 over 3, and I want my line to be increasing. All right, now I have to decide solid or dotted. Well, there's a line underneath it, which means it's equal to, so I'm going to draw a solid line. And now I have to decide where I'm going to shade. Well, y'all, this is a less than or equal to. So if it's less than, I'm going to shade below. And that's all of my possible solutions are right there in that feasible region. All right, these guys are not in slope-intercept form. They're in standard form. So first thing I got to do is get them to slope-intercept, which means get the y alone. All right, so to get this y alone, I'm going to need to subtract 3x from both sides. These are not like terms, y'all, so I cannot put them together. But what I can do is rewrite this as a negative 2y is less than negative 3x plus 10. All right, here's where we're about to have to be really careful. To get this y by itself, we're going to have to divide by a negative 2. If you divide an inequality by a negative, remember that you have to flip your sign, okay? We divided by a negative, so you have to flip the sign. Let's maybe make a note of that. All right, so now I've got y is less than, and then this is going to be a negative divided by a negative is a positive. I'm going to leave it as a fraction because I like my slope as a fraction. And then 10 divided by negative 2 is negative 5. So I'm going to go to my y-intercept of negative 5. My slope is 3 over 2, so I'm going to go up 3, right 2, because this line is increasing. And then I'm going to decide solid or dotted. Well, there's not a line underneath it, so I'm going to have a dotted line because it is not equal to. And now I have to decide above or below. Well, now that it is a less than, I'm going to shade everything below. All right, same thing on number 5. I've got to get this to slope-intercept first. So I'm trying to get this y by itself. So the first thing I'm going to move is this 5x to the other side. Y'all, these are not like terms. So I'm going to have negative 3y is less than or equal to negative 5x minus 15. All right, I still got to get, oh, y'all, I made a mistake over here. Sorry, go back to number 4. I never flipped this sign. This guy should be going this way now. So when I shade, there should not be shading over here. That's a greater than sign. The shading should be here. I hope y'all caught that without me. Make sure you flip the sign. All right, so back on number 5, I still have got to divide everything by a -3. Anytime you divide an inequality by a negative, you have to go in and flip the sign. Okay, so make note that we flip the sign. So I'm going to have y is greater than or equal to. We want to leave our slope as a fraction because we want to do rise over run. But I do know that a negative over a negative is a positive, so I'm going to have 5 over 3x, and then -15 over -3. You'll just use the fraction button as a +5. All right, so my y-intercept is 5. My slope is 5 over 3. I can't go up 5 and be off the graph. So I'm going to go down 5, left 3, okay, because this line will still be increasing. Because there's a line underneath it, I'm going to have a solid line. And now I have to decide, am I shading above or below? Well, this says y is greater than, so I'm going to shade above. All right, last little section, okay? We've got to graph this system of linear inequalities. So we're going to graph both inequalities, and then our feasible region is going to be wherever they intersect, and we're going to pick a point in that region to be a solution. All right, both of these are already in slope-intercept form. So for number 6, I'm going to go graph my y-intercept at -2. If I want to make this a fraction, I can make it a -1 over 1. So I'm going to go down 1, right 1, because this line has to be decreasing because it is a negative slope. All right, because there's a line underneath it, I can connect my dots with a solid line. And now I have to decide where I'm going to shade. Well, that says y is less than, so that tells me I'm going to shade below my line. All right, on this guy, my y-intercept is a +2. My slope is a -5 over 1, so I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right 1, because this line still has to be decreasing, okay? I'm going to run out of room that way, so I'm just going to connect my dots. Oops. And because there's a line underneath it, it's going to be a solid line because it is equal to. I'm really struggling here. All right. And now I have to decide where I'm going to shade, if I'm going to shade above or if I'm going to shade below. Well, y'all, this says y is greater than, so I'm going to shade everything here above this line. All right, I've got like a teeny tiny feasible region. So anything in this area right here is a feasible region. So I'm going to find where my colors overlap, and they overlap at, this is one of the spots where they overlap, and that point, y'all, is 2, -5. All right, and you couldn't pick a point in here because there's no overlap. You can't pick a point in here, no overlap, and you for sure can't pick a point in here because nothing's shaded. All right, number 7, my y-intercept is 2. My slope is a +1 over 2, so I'm going to go up 1, right 2. Up 1, right 2. Or I can go down 1, left 2. Because there's a line underneath this, I'm going to draw a solid line because that is equal to. And it says less than or equal to. So if it's less than, I'm going to shade below. Okay, all of this that's shaded goes with my first line. My second line has a y-intercept of -3 and a slope of -2. If I want to put a -2 over 1, I can. So I'm going to go down 2, right 1, because this line has to be decreasing, or I can go up 2, left 1. And there's not a line underneath this, so it is not equal to, so I'm going to need a dotted line. All right, and this is a less than sign, which tells me I'm going to shade below. And then my feasible region is whenever these overlap. So I can pick any point in here. It doesn't matter which one. I'm going to pick this guy right here, which would be a -4, -3. Remember, your coordinate is x, y. All right, last one, number 8. Funky thing about number 8 is it did not give them to me in slope-intercept form. I'm going to have to get them both back to slope-intercept form, which means I want the y all by itself. So first thing, if I have 3x plus 2y is greater than or equal to negative 2, I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides. And I'm going to have 2y. These are not like terms, so I'm just going to rewrite it as negative 3x minus 2. All right, to get this y by itself, I've got to divide everything by 2. Y'all, I'm not dividing by a negative, so my sign's going to stay the same. And remember, we're using our fraction button, and this is going to say negative 3 over 2x minus 1. That is now in slope-intercept form. And if we want to, we can go ahead and graph it. So my y-intercept on this is a negative 1. My slope is a negative 3 over 2, which means I'm going to go down 3, right 2, because this line has to be decreasing. I'm going to connect. Ooh, and I got lucky because I didn't check it, but there is a line underneath this, so it's going to be solid. Okay, and it says y is greater than, so I'm going to shade above this line. All right, this guy right here is not in slope-intercept form. I've got to get him there. I want that y by itself, so first thing I'm going to do, if you want to put a 1 in front of there, you can. I'm going to subtract 1x from both sides, and I'm going to have 2y is less than or equal to negative 1x plus 2. I still got to get this y by itself, so I'm going to divide everything by 2. This is when we're going to use our fraction button. So I'm going to have y is less than or equal to negative 1 over 2x plus 1. Now I'm going to graph this line so I can find my feasible region. Let's go orange. All right, so my y-intercept is 1. Okay, and my slope is a negative 1 over 2. So I'm going to go down 1, right 2, because this line has to be decreasing, or up 1, left 2. Okay, there's a line underneath it, so it's going to be solid because it is equal to. And then it says y is less than or equal to, which tells me that I'm going to shade below this line, not in pink, because that's going to be hard to see. I'm going to shade below this line, and then my feasible region, remember, is wherever they intersect. So I'm going to pick any point in here where they intersect. It doesn't matter which one, but that happens to be 3, negative 2.